an honor to be here. Today I speak on behalf of the Mind Hive for just 2 minutes, and I just want to tell you that we are so grateful to be here, and I'm sure a lot of you are very curious to know about our mental health startup, and I'm also guessing that Apilang would share a little bit more about our recent success and why we're here to talk about that. So when COVID happened, right, the whole world went into chaos and craze. But something very different happened to us. 3 days before Singapore went into a lockdown, Robert, our co-founder, and I had coffee. And we had just met for the first time. And we were talking about solutions to help with COVID-19 because there were many problems that were happening. And both of us shared a very, very special problem close to our heart, and that is our mental health. We took our passion for mental health to this competition called Startup Weekend Singapore. It's a competition for people with ideas to actually put those ideas and build a company out of those ideas, right? And share their business idea. It was there where we met Elaine, our co-founder, and the three of us brought our hearts and our minds together, and we built the Mind Hive, a technological mental health solution that won first place at this competition. So we were national winners of our startup competition. That put us on the global stage, and out of over 50 teams from all over the world, our solution made it to the top 20, and we were very honored to be a part of Techstars Global Bootcamp. And this bootcamp was designed to further refine our business idea. And so that has been our journey so far. We've made several partnerships in our local media and international media. And right now we are building our very exciting product. So I hope you guys keep in touch with us even after this talk, because we would love to tell you more about our product and hope that it will inspire you, bright minds, to go and create your own solutions that will help to solve your community. So without any further delay, I would like to introduce to you the first speaker who will share her life story with us, and that is Elaine. So let's give Elaine our kind attention. Thank you.
Okay, I think Apilang has to give me permission to share my screen. Sorry. Yeah. Where did she go?
Elaine.
Yeah.
Elaine, yeah, are you trying?
Oh. No, it's still disabled.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's done?
Yeah, is it done?
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I will move this a little bit over here for now. Okay. Yeah, so we are the Mind Hive, and I'll be going up first to share a little bit about my journey with Mind Hive, my journey as an entrepreneur before Mind Hive as well, and some of the things that maybe you can learn or take away from at the end about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. This is me. I'm Elaine. You can also call me Ellie. I look like your teacher. And yeah, so I'm a co-founder and head of branding and design. And this is my entrepreneurial journey as a designer and a digital marketer. So, okay, I understand this is blocking everyone. Okay, this is better. So this is my educational journey. So the reason why I'm showing this is because my journey of education is actually quite different from a normal Asian or even Singaporean kind of educational journey. So I was actually born in Malaysia when I was 7. When I was 8, sorry. So I actually crossed the border between Malaysia and Singapore every single morning. And I had to wake up at 5 a.m. Sometimes I will ask my mom, how come I didn't have breakfast? She said, you just didn't remember. And I would cross the border every day on my own, on the school bus. When you reach the custom, you have to get down and walk across the custom. So everyone is like a zombie, like half asleep and walking through. That was me when I was 8. When I was 9, my family decided to migrate to Singapore. So me, my parents, and my 2 sisters, we migrated over for better education. And in 2006, 2010, I mostly took a lot of science subjects, simply because normally people would say, or parents would say, or teachers would say that science is more practical. So go and do science. But the problem here is that science is fine, but I was never good at science. My science grades were always the worst, and I was always doing very well in humanities like history or literature or English, but those were not my main subjects. So I entered university in 2012 and I decided to take on industrial design. So here was the other turning point in my university journey. After 1 year in industrial design, I realized that it wasn't what I wanted. So industrial design is about making furniture, making surgical instruments, making things that are very practical and ergonomic. And I was a very aesthetic person and a visual person, so it really didn't fit me. So I had to make a hard decision to tell my parents that I wanted to change my major. So I switched over to interactive media design and technology entrepreneurship. And I think that was one of the things that really changed my life from that. I also had the opportunity to go to Tokyo and London for some summer school, even though I didn't do exchange. I also actually did a 2 to 3 month internship in Tokyo at a creative media agency. So that was my first overseas internship, and also the proper start of my journey as a designer. So in 2019, so maybe something interesting about me is that I can speak a bit of Japanese. I also went back to school for a couple of months when I was working to study corporate identity design. Yeah. Oops. Okay. So this is my entrepreneurial journey so far. I founded 2 bespoke calligraphy or design companies before. This is simply because I really believe in celebrating every individual's taste, and I really love customizing designs and customizing gifts for individuals. So for example, if you really like Harry Potter, I would love to design something that's Harry Potter related for the person, or design the person's name on a wine glass or on a cup, so that they know that this gift was made from the heart and it's made especially for them. I feel like that's a very precious feeling that it's very hard to get right now, because a lot of our products are very mass produced in the factory and stuff like that. In 2017, in July, I started my first job after graduating from university. So I'm working with a company that's a startup called Reactor School. And Reactor School, we actually do entrepreneurship training for young students who actually want to become entrepreneurs and start their own companies in the future. So that's where I learned a lot about what it's like to be entrepreneurial mindset and soft skills that you need to actually start a company. So for the last 3 years, I've been helping to guide young students from as young as 13 years old all the way up to 24 to actually start on their own journeys as well, and to share my own journey with them. Yeah, so in Reactor, I'm the lead designer and the head of marketing. So I'll share a bit later about how that looks like. In April, late April was when I met Patrina and Robert at the competition at Startup Weekend. And from April to June has been a very exciting journey. It's tiring, but very exciting. Just a little bit about what I've been doing so far. So Ellie Minty Designs was the first design business that I started up. So I was staying in a hostel in university, and I was operating a small business out of my own room. So most of the time I was inside my room doing calligraphy until very, very late at night. So one of the reasons why I'm also interested in mental health could be because of the effect that doing calligraphy had on me. I realized that it was a very therapeutic experience. It can calm me down when I'm overthinking or when I'm anxious. And just creating things like these, not just for myself, but for other people, is very calming for me. Yeah, so more recently I've been exploring like drawing with my iPad as well, more graphics and stuff like that. And I really like food, as you can see. So I really like drawing food, and the favorite place that I like to draw in is a cafe on a rainy day with a nice cup of coffee. And this is Happy Monkey Designs. So I started this with my boyfriend actually about 2 years ago. And what we were doing is that we are creating customized stationery and customized wine glasses. So we know that people like to celebrate with their families a lot. And this became a very popular wedding gift actually. So wedding gift for people to, when they move into their new home as a couple, and they can use cups or glasses with their names on it or any other designs that they might like. Yeah. And this is Reactor School, as I mentioned. So this is where, so you can see kind of the transition from doing art into doing design work. So design has to have a really solid purpose to it. So it's very interesting. You can go and Google up the difference between art and design. So design needs to have a purpose and it needs to achieve an aim or goal. So in Reactor School, we mostly run our programs with schools. So we work with teachers as our client, and the end user of our product is students. So this is some of the design work that I had to do for the company. And actually last year I had to spend 3 to 4 months to actually rebrand the entire company from scratch. Yeah. Okay. Okay, here's some stuff. Okay, so yeah, this is our Instagram for Reactor, and I also created Instagram story icons for the feed, and this is our website. Okay.
Okay. Can I request to everyone to please mute yourself? I'm trying, but I don't know what is happening, so I cannot unmute them.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, Ellen, please continue.
Thank you. No problem. Okay, and just a little peek into the design process. When you're designing a brand from scratch, you have to look at the primary color palette, secondary color palette, and you can use a lot of beautiful images to actually get inspiration. So this is how I actually built that. And one interesting thing that happened to me when I was working at Reactor is that I actually applied for a Singapore-Indonesia Youth Leaders Exchange Program called SciLab. And this was very, very interesting. So the theme of the entire program was about sustainability and about the environment. And this was a real place where I really found out a lot more about climate change and what young people can do to actually help better. So, but more importantly for me, so there's about 20 or 30 delegates from Singapore and 20 or 30 delegates from Indonesia. So the interesting thing is that Singapore is really small, but Indonesia is so big, right? So I actually made, so these people, they actually have to apply from their own province, and only one person from every state in Indonesia can get into the program. So it's very competitive for them. And basically, I managed to make a new friend from almost 18 states in Indonesia. So that was something very interesting. I also met this person. His name is Maliki, and he's from a very, very far away part of Indonesia. In order to get to the island from Jakarta, you have to take 2 days of flight, and you have to take like a boat ride just to get to the island. So he's so far that it will be very hard for us to visit him, but we have heard that his island is extremely beautiful. So we hope that one day we'll be able to visit. And this is actually my buddy, Fira. And we bonded a lot. We are almost like sisters, and we discovered that we both like to sing. So when we were in our room in the program, we were singing songs together, and actually the entire group went out for karaoke. And what we found was an amazing connection, because you had people from all over these two countries, but we all loved the same songs. So that was an amazing connection that we had formed. And yeah, so these are some life-changing experiences that I've had so far. And so that brings me actually to the Mind Hive. So having met a lot of people and experienced a lot of diverse cultures, I feel like mental health is something that should be important to every single person, and everybody has some kind of struggle with it. So which is why I was really quite compelled to work in the mental health space as well. So this is Mind Hive, and what you see here is our website. Feel free to go and visit. It's www.themindhive.com. And this is our Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook as well. So this is just some of the collaterals that I've been designing for us so far. Because we're a mental health startup, we also want to do a lot of infographics to help people understand how to care better for themselves. And actually tomorrow we're running our very first public event. So we have about 130 people signing up, young people under the age of 35 that are coming to hear from our speakers about mental wellness, because what we're trying to do is to help young people understand the stigma and the fear of mental health and talking about mental health that's in Singapore, because Singapore is a rather conservative society as well, and most Asians never talk about mental health in their family. Yeah. So yeah, this is our logo and our color palette as well. And I think just to kind of wrap up, maybe the reasons for why be an entrepreneur, I would say don't do it for the fame and for the money, because it's going to definitely be a very tough journey. But the most important thing is to always remember why you wanted to start on it in the first place and stick to that. So I would say do it to make the world a better place, to work hard towards your own goals, because there's a huge difference between spending your life in a company from 9 to 5 working towards someone else's goals and actually going out and working towards your own. And you can meet amazing people, sometimes from all over the world as well, or even just within your own country. And you can actually impact the lives of others. So I think that's something very exciting for me as well. So I hope that it can excite you guys too. And I'll just leave with a quote from Walt Disney. So we don't make movies to make money. We make money to make more movies. So I hope that inspires you guys as well. Yeah. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Aline. Yeah, Petrina. Yeah, I think you
will go next, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen now. Can everyone see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Hi. Hi, everyone. Just wanted to just use this time wisely to kind of share a bit of a background on me and where I come from and where I got to today. And hopefully you guys can take away some tips that you might be able to apply in your own lives. So I think my story starts in Sri Lanka in 1991. So this is what Sri Lanka looks like. This is what I remember growing up till the age of 5. Mainly beautiful beaches, hanging out with family, going to temples. It's very much a very small village, and Jaffna is right at the top, the tip, very close to India. In October 1995, things took a turn, and we had a civil war that lasted 30 years. So which means I had to leave Jaffna to find safety, and we moved south into the jungles of Klinochi. So about 500,000 people moved completely out of Jaffna. So Jaffna, which is quite an ancient town, became a ghost town overnight. And we spent the next sort of 6 months living in the jungles of Klinochi. And this is what life used to look like for me when I was 5, 6 years old, getting through the civil war. And from there, we went to Colombo. Colombo is the capital of Sri Lanka. And my small family, so my mom, dad, brother, and I, we stayed in a very small lodge. So when you move to the south, to the capital from a small village, with everything that we lost in the war, you don't really have much of an option to stay. So we used to stay in these accommodation called lodges, which were like these massive like hotels where you would share your room with other families that also fled the war. That was quite a humbling experience for me, but like I was quite young, so I didn't quite understand why I was here and why I wasn't running around the beaches in Jaffna. So when I was there, my parents worked really hard to put me through education. So I started going to school in Colombo for a little bit, and my mom signed me up to computer lessons. So in those days, computers were becoming quite popular. That's when I started using my Windows 98. So I used to go to these lessons after school just to play around with computers, understand how they work, and really explore it. And from there, we decided to move to the UK. And for a refugee going to the UK from Sri Lanka, it's not as straight as applying for a visa, book your flights, and you go from Colombo to Heathrow. But you have to take more of a long, unconventional route. So from Sri Lanka, we went to Indonesia, where I lived for a year. And it was really weird experience because we stayed there for a year, pretty much in a lockdown because we were there illegally. So you weren't really allowed to leave the house. And you go outside to buy bits and bobs, but you can't be spotted by authorities. So from Indonesia, we then moved to Thailand and then to China. From China, we went to Finland. So Finland's one of the Scandinavian countries who gave us refuge, and we were placed in a refugee camp in the north. And this was, again, a different experience that kind of shaped my life, because it was the first time I was in the Western country. First time I ever saw snow. I'm so used to the hot climate. And it was also the first time I met a lot of other nationalities. So I met refugees from Somalia, Albania, Kosovo, and all other parts of Europe and other parts of the world. And you start to understand that you feel like you're the only one that's disadvantaged by this war, but you also see that war around the world has been affecting a lot of young people and a lot of lives. So for me, it's when I reflect back on Finland and the experience I've had there, I'm always thinking in a very borderless mindset. So I don't really look at people as nationalities or races. I see people as people, you know, we're all free to live on this earth anywhere we want, and we shouldn't be discriminated or forced into living a certain way. So that's something I reflect on a lot. From Finland, arrived in London, and I grew up in Wembley. So this is Wembley Stadium, where all the football matches take place. Conveniently, it's now developed, and I live there now. So I used to go and watch a lot of games. And life in the UK was great. So I went through school, went to university, and I started different countries. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, okay. So this is what it looks like, a year and a half on 10 different passports. I wouldn't recommend anyone to do it again, but unfortunately. So from here,
so I want to talk to you a bit more about my boarding school experience. I went to a boarding school in India, in Tamil Nadu, where I spent 2 years, and I met a lot of amazing people from all over the world.
Sorry, Robert, you're quite soft now.
A very good insight into the success, because this school was one of the best in Asia, and you meet people who are like children of politicians and actors. And there was a very different mindset of people that I met in London, and I loved it there. This is what my school looked like. From there, I hit a stumbling block, which a lot of you might have gone through, is trying to make your mind on what do you study. So I'm the first person in my family to ever go to university. So for me, like, I always felt like I didn't have people to support me or to go for advice. So I ended up making a lot of decisions on my own. So I did further maths and physics, because it's what I really enjoy. So I went to University of Bath to do engineering, and then I hated engineering because it was not what I expected it to be. So then I ended up going to APP to do accounting and graduated in accounting. After that, I worked in investment banking. Over the next 3-4 years, I traveled a lot. I worked with a lot of banks. I worked in big teams and learned a huge amount. And I got to a point where I felt like, this is great. I have big ambitions. I've done so well in life, but I didn't feel satisfied with where I was. I felt like there was always something missing. And I felt like I had a lot to offer to this world, and I had a lot of experience. that I wanted to share. And working for someone didn't really give me that flexibility or that freedom to really express myself or to share my stories. So I wanted to start my own thing. And the idea came about was, remember when I spoke to you guys about me going to these computer classes in Colombo? I realized that, 15 years later in the UK, we still have the same crisis. The technology industry is very limited to a small set of people who are getting into tech. There's a lot of technology jobs out there, but not many people able to fill it. So naturally, we will have a lot of people that come from different parts of the world to take up these jobs. So I want to try and encourage more young people to get into tech. I joined a program called Entrepreneurial Spark. Again, an interesting thing you'll probably notice is growing up in the UK, you naturally feel like you're the only, you feel like you're different among a big crowd of people. So in this picture, you'll probably see I'm one of the very few brown person in there. And you got to use that as an advantage. Stand out because you feel like you're different, but also it's also a motivation for you to work a lot more harder to really prove yourself. So that's something I've started picking up quite earlier on. And I started Go Code. This is what our center looks like in Harrow. And this is what it looks like in Qatar. And it's very simple, trying to get more kids into technology. And I want to skip through all of this for now, but essentially all it does is runs after school clubs, holiday camps, and an online coding school. The journey so far has been amazing. And end of March, or beginning of March, I moved to Singapore. I wanted to be more closer to Asia. The tech scene was growing here. I feel like I wanted to be more close to home. And met Katrina and Elaine, and we launched this idea at the startup weekend and went on to winning. And it's been an amazing story and a journey so far. But most importantly, I wanted to share some bits that I feel like will be super important to anyone who's kind of getting started on this journey. Firstly, is to looking at your kind of disadvantages. Like everyone will have disadvantages. Even if you were born into the most richest family with all the wealth and opportunities, doesn't mean that you don't have any disadvantage and you're given everything on a silver platter. Yes, you have all the opportunities, but you might have a mental disadvantage of trying to take up those opportunities. So never look at disadvantages, look at your strength and see how you can capitalize on it. The second thing is about failures. I think before I started Go Code, I had a bunch of different startups that I started on the side. My first ever business was burning CDs back in those days when broadband was new. I was one of the few kids to have broadband at home. So I used to download music albums and then burn them on to make copies of them and sell them at school. And a bunch of different business ideas that I ran through. And you fail, you learn, and you keep getting better. And it's not to say I'm at the peak of my success now. I feel like I'm still at step one because I still have a huge amount of learnings to do, a huge amount of failures to get through. And it's so important to embrace that failure. This is what people generally see, especially on social media nowadays. There's a bunch of motivation quotes. People always trying to show off what they're good at. But behind the scenes, there's a huge amount of persistence and failures and sacrifices that go through. So again, the mindset of entrepreneurs is like you have good days, you have bad days, you have amazing days, and then you feel like giving up. And then you also have external issues. You might have family problems or you might have financial problems. The whole entrepreneurship is not necessarily a job. It's more of a mindset. It's like, how do you become this amazing problem solver that you can balance everything and get through life on a daily basis? It's not to say it's for everyone. So some people, 9-to-5s and regular jobs would be amazing and that's great, but it's not. But for some people, the entrepreneurship is probably the way forward. So you got to be a lot more honest about yourself and see where you feel comfortable. So tips, couple of things. Finding your passion is important, I think. Knowing what you're good at, what you enjoy, what gives you that buzz, something that you can do all day long without getting bored. Working smart. So you find your passion and you know this is something you enjoy, but
you don't want to spend all your hours on working on something that you feel like it's fun to do, but it's not really going to bring any revenue in, or it's not really going to help you grow as a person. You've got to work smart and have measurable kind of goals in place. And the third thing is network, and I can't emphasize enough. I think you guys are at university now. I think it's so important that within your university and within your district and your state, you start building and connecting with people who may be able to help you, but also you might be able to help them. So when it comes to networking, it's kind of give and take. And I think it's so important at university level, you start building this network of people. And again, finally, is the community aspect of it. Once you get to a stage where you've accumulated a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of financial freedom, I think it's so important to kind of give back. How can I go back to my university and inspire more people to get to where I am? How can I give back to charities? Whatever it is, I think it's so important that you give back to communities. So that's a rough path of where I am. You can connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn, or check out my site, or you can reach out to us at Hyve for any kind of questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen now. Give me a second. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Patrina. I'm going to try to keep this short as well so that we have time. Can you see the screen, you guys? Hello?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
great. Okay, I just wanted to, because like right now I'm all
yes, ma'am, we can see the screen.
Okay, great. Okay. So yeah, I am Patrina. Like we mentioned before in the story, Robert and I met somewhere in mid-March, and we came up with the Hyve. But before that, here's a bit about my story. So when I was a young girl, I was very weird and I was very different from my friends. At 12 years old, I entered this competition called Singapore's Brainiest Kid. And I don't know if you can see, but it's a very blur picture because this was in 2005. But I'm actually the only brown girl in this, the only Indian girl who made it to the finals of this competition in Singapore in that year. And the moment this happened when I was 12, my entire family expected me to perform in a very academic way. That was just part of the package, right? So naturally, my parents were like, okay, this girl is smart. She needs to become Can you guess what my parents wanted me to be? My parents wanted me to be a doctor. So actually, that's where I started. I went to the science stream and I spent a year doing a pre-med program that actually was preparing me. But in that 1 year, I spent enough time in hospitals to find and to actually recognize that there was a bigger problem in society, and I wanted to change that. But there was also another problem, and that problem was I never really had a passion to work with needles. I actually had a different passion, and this is my passion actually. So from a very young age, I was very, very into music and dancing and singing, and this just made me feel alive. When I told my parents about this, they were very upset. And with any Indian family, because I'm Indian, they said, if you are not going to follow our dreams for you, then you are on your own. You have to figure this out on your own, and you have to survive on your own. You have to put yourself through school on your own, and that's it. And an incredible miracle happened, because that was also where I found my first job. In 2012, when I was applying to university, I was actually contacted by this lady, by her friend, who was looking for an assistant in a theater company. And it was only going to be for 3 days. She said, you know, Patrina, I don't know of any other person in Singapore who loves theater, who loves working with children, and who can cover for this job for just 3 days. And so I said, oh, that sounds like a dream. Why not I just apply? And 3 days actually turned into 5 years. In 5 years, I was part of a company, and I took that very basic theater production and I turned it into something that was a lot more bigger, and I was part of that journey, and that was just the most rewarding part of my life. As you can see from my pictures, like Arabian Nights on your right, that was the first show I ever produced by myself after being an assistant for 1.5 years. And on the top, that was the first radio play I ever wrote and I produced. And just being a part of this company, watching that theater was a wonderful way to communicate powerful messages to the world, but doing it in very diverse ways. So I actually created a few more programs that was very brand new, and people were also excited about this and saying, oh, this is something different. I've never actually thought about this. And the picture at the bottom actually is me with the class conducting a YouTube star program. So it was taking TV production skills and teaching kids how to become the next batch of stars on YouTube. So it was all using theater, but diversifying the business and doing things that were creative, that were different, but that also brought in a lot of money. These kids are very, very rich. And so they could afford to pay like $1,000 a week just to come and sit in my programs. What I found was so powerful about business is with this money that was made, I could actually give back to the community. And so that's what I did. My brother is dressed up as Santa Claus here. So my brother and I, we actually, I'm from Malaysia actually. I was born in Malaysia. And this is the Asli village. These are natives. And we celebrated Christmas with them. And I actually created a program, something similar to a theater program with a lot of music and dancing and singing for these kids in a Christmas party style. And that's one of the wonderful things you can do with business, really. You can make money because you can give back, right? Like what Robert mentioned as well. It was amazing for me because all the people who didn't believe in me at that time were all starting to see that actually there could be a real earning, a real future with theater. In 2016, I was invited by my boss to direct my first overseas theater show, and it was in New Zealand. So I actually spent 2 months in New Zealand working on this production, and as you can see, these are a bunch of happy kids in costume, and it was a really great experience. The proudest moment in those 5 years was this boy called Max. He came into my class when I first started in 2012, but by the end of that, he actually made it to Broadway. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Broadway, but for a theater performer, that's like the highest ever place you could go. It's like going to Hollywood for an actor, or going to the Olympics for an athlete. But in 2017, I was stuck at crossroads because I had 3 opportunities that were lined up side by side. And the reason I share this is because if you ever plan to start your own business, you are going to face a lot of choices that are going to be in front of you. And every choice is going to lead you to a very different life. So by 2017, I started to see the success that my position in this company was bringing. I started seeing money come in. I started seeing that with one idea put on paper, you could actually create a business and you could actually flourish and thrive. But like what Robert felt in his journey as well, making money with maybe just no sense of purpose, or, you know, at some point you lose the drive or passion, can be just making money. And a lot of people will start to feel that once they go into a career. So the other options I had was to pursue an education in Oxford. I became very interested in studying about philosophy and religion, about deeper questions to life, like, is there purpose in life? Is there meaning in life? You know, where do we go when we die? All these very interesting questions. And I found a program in Oxford that offered that. And you might be thinking, what is China doing there? It was a very interesting time, 2017, because someone approached me from China and they saw what I was doing in Singapore and they wanted me to start and pioneer a theater production company in China for kids, because Chinese kids really wanted to learn English. So can you guess where I went? I chose Oxford. But yeah, in 2017, I made a career shift to align with my goals of studying in Oxford. So I applied to Oxford. But then because it required a lot of research and writing, I joined a company, a global organization of a team of global speakers who come from academia and who travel the world and give talks. And they were all very inspiring. And in just 1 year, actually in 6 months, I actually had the amazing opportunity to travel to over 13 countries in such a short time. And here's a picture of me and my mentor in the organization. He's from Sri Lanka. And I don't know if you guys recognize the guy in the middle, but he's the president of Singapore, the ex-president. And he sat in one of our talks. And that was a really wonderful and weird opportunity that I would have not gotten if I had stayed in my comfortable position and running that theatre company. And yeah, I applied to Oxford and I faced a lot of challenges. People were telling me that I wasn't going to get in because I was a minority, I was a woman. I had to actually raise $80,000 to study here. And that was the hardest part of making it here. And I'm happy to share with you some fundraising tips if you want to know more. How do you fundraise? How do you raise so much money for a business that you want to start? And I came back to Asia in 2019. That's the picture of our new airport. And the picture on the side is actually taken in Bangkok. That's where I met your Professor Apilang during a leadership academy. And in 2020, I did not expect, once again, to take a different shift and to meet with Robert and to be so overwhelmed with this idea that is so close to my own heart, and to actually go into this business with him and with Elaine. So here are just some key lessons I have learned. And I didn't write this down, but I think one of the things I really want to say to you guys today is you're all going to have plans for your life, right? I mean, right now you're in university and you have an idea, or maybe some of you don't know where you're going to go, but life is going to throw a lot of surprises at you. The most important thing is to find your purpose. All of us actually are put on earth with a very specific purpose. And if you just look at my story, right, it may not make sense. I mean, this girl has been from here to there to everywhere. But whenever I look back, I always realize that every step of the journey prepared me for the next step. So from running a business and learning how to make revenue, to fundraising for my studies, again, trying to sell an idea, to now bringing those skills into a brand new company and a brand new idea. There's been a purpose in every season of my life. The second thing is being passionate. You have to love what you do and do what you love. That is something that is so important to work, because if not, you're just going to be just another slave to someone, to an organization, and you know, it's not going to give you a sense of satisfaction that you can get. So I think those two actually align. Once you find your purpose, you will know where your heart is, and then you will be passionate. But the most important thing that I would like to share with you from my own stories, you have to have faith wherever you go. And I know for a lot of you, maybe entrepreneurship is not something natural, right, in your community. Maybe you don't have enough role models or friends who are doing it. You have to step out in faith, knowing that when you put your idea out there and you start to execute your idea, it will start to bring people along your path. Because that's what I did. When I got interested in Oxford, I just stepped out. I wrote a letter to some guy who never knew me. And the next thing I know, I have a job in that company, and you know, things started to fall into place. So I just want to encourage you as well. Be fearless, have faith, because that's what's going to get you to the next level and the next step. So I'm happy to connect with you to share more. I don't think it's enough time to tell you the entire life story, but I also want to save some time for questions and answers. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Eileen, Katrina, and Robert. Thank you so much. I think for me, it was really, really an encouraging and inspiring session. So I must say thank you so much. And yeah, we will move to questions and answers. But before that, shall we take a group photo before going to the question and answers? So I request all the participants to please put on your video for a while, because we are going to take one group photo. And in the meantime, you also can think about your questions. Yeah, while we are ready for, first all the participants to please put on your video for a while. Mungkin going Redmi video on lah. Brother Jami, anyo ko video on mo no? Ankita, yeah. Yeah, is everyone's videos on? Or shall we go with that? Is it okay, Katrina?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. Please take one photo. Every one of you can do some post also, since we are going to take some pictures.
Bye, Dr. Jamie. Thank you for joining us. Okay, is someone taking the picture?
Yeah, Katrina, can you please take the picture?
Oh, sorry.
I am using my mobile. So
Okay.
any of
Eileen, do you have the?
Okay, I'll take it.
okay.
Okay, ready? One, two, three. Oh, hang on. Where's Robert? Is Robert? Oh yeah, Robert's there. Okay, let's take one more. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. So yeah, now the time is open for questions. So I request all the participants to ask questions if you have any questions.
I want to ask a question to Elaine. So my question is, did you have a situation in your life when you feel like giving up? Then what motivates you to go ahead?
Definitely. I think on an entrepreneurial journey, you are going to have plenty of that. What I did to keep going is that I think understanding yourself a lot better can help you cope with a lot of things that come along in your life. I think for me, so I'm someone that feels a lot of things. I'm quite guided by my feelings. So it used to be harder for me to maybe control my emotions. So I used to be someone where if there's a lot of sad news out in the world, I can be affected for like the entire day and stuff like that. But through my journey, through experiencing a lot of failures here and there, and actually even getting into a relationship taught me a lot of things. Like how can you better understand how another person communicates, and how can you better understand yourself? I think these were a lot of things that helped me to cope with a lot of failure. How I move on from it is always keep in mind why you started it in the first place, like I mentioned. So if I know for sure that I want to make an impact in the mental health space, that's always going to be something that's going to tie me down no matter what happens. And I believe that if you have the right mindset, and if you have the right goals in mind, and if you have the heart in what you're trying to do, there's nothing nothing really that will really get you down. There will be a lot of ups and downs, like how Robert shared. But I think with experience and with time, you get stronger and stronger. Honestly, I'm a very different person from how I was maybe 3 years ago when I first started my first job. I think going out into the real world changes you, and in a good way. So you become mentally stronger, you become physically stronger, emotionally stronger as well. Yeah. So that's how, so really just stay true to yourself. Know what you want. I think understand what you want, understand what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And always remember that you should take care of yourself first. So don't let yourself burn out, and don't let yourself, don't let your body give way because you're not sleeping or you're not eating. So take care of yourself. And I think just have to believe in the faith, like Katrina mentioned, that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
I have Mito has a questions to Katrina, and he wants to know about the fundraising tips.
I knew it. I knew it. I think, okay, I'll tell you what not to do, how not to fundraise, okay? Because I made mistakes. So I've never fundraised before until I had something in front of me I finally wanted with all my heart, right? Going to Oxford, if you have an offer like that, I think you will sell your kidneys and you will do anything it takes just to get that opportunity. It's the same with your business. When you come up with a business idea you know is going to change your community and transform lives, you're going to do it with all your heart. And so that's the kind of drive you need to have in order for you to first even think about fundraising. So that's number one, because that's going to keep you, sustain you even when there are moments where you want to give up, because fundraising is not an easy thing to do. But there are also strategies to fundraise, and I think that's what I learned along the way. I can tell you more in person if you want, in a separate conversation. But I think most importantly, network. You need to learn how to grow your network. So use this time in university wisely. Coming to a talk like this, for example, is wonderful. It's a wonderful way to start, because today you have added 3 new people to your network. Elaine, myself, and Robert. And when you add us to your network, you are essentially adding all the people in our network to your network. And whatever you have in your heart might actually resonate with one of the people in our network who's already thinking of investing in an idea like yours, and has just waiting for the right person to come along at the right time. So fundraising also very, very, it's something like dating in a way, because like you're waiting for the right person to come along at the right time, right? Fundraising is similar like that as well. I was very fortunate in my fundraising journey to meet someone who was actually putting up a scholarship for Asian women to study in Oxford, like a Singaporean one. And the timing was perfect, and everything was right. And that scholarship actually helped me a huge deal with my studies. So there are many ways to go about this, but firstly, network. Look at your network, number one. Number two is you're going to have a deadline, right, to your fundraising efforts as well. So I think you plan your time wisely when you're going to fundraise, and have a goal in mind. You have to have a certain objective and a goal that can help you stay grounded. But again, I think if you ask me if there's one thing you can reduce it to, is really growing your network, meeting more people who are like-minded like you in this, and most importantly, have faith. At the end of the day, that's what really got me to Oxford. I went to Oxford with that faith, knowing that this was where I was meant to be, and that everything was going to fall into place. And if it didn't, I would have come back home with the greatest life lesson, and at least I tried. Yeah, so I hope that helps. But if you want even more juicy secrets, you can come and look for me after this, and I will tell you who is that person who invested in me.
Yeah, I think, can I share your email ID to Mito also? Like, if
sure.
touch more. I think I'll do that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, all of us, I think we're happy, right, to connect all three of us. Actually, Elaine and Robert also have their own fundraising, what do you call it, efforts as well. So it's good to hear, actually. But thank you for that question. Thank you so much.
Okay. So, any other questions? Yeah, please, you can also type in the chat box. So if you have any things to ask. While you are thinking, I want to ask one question. So I find it really and amazing and very inspiring, that story of all of you. So even Robert also has a very much, like, very, I mean, his childhood experience and then how he grew up, but that's all inspiring. And then I was like, what we usually think about, and when we think about entrepreneurs, we think about it, like we have to have, our family has to be good, we have to have capital to start a business, we have to have that amount in our hands. We cannot start without anything. So, I mean, we cannot start with nothing. So that's some of the concepts that we have about business, because before making any decision to start a business, we have to have a capital and all. So that's what most of the people think. So could you share about from your experiences, like was it like this in your case, or how did you so if you guys can share something about this also.
Robert, you're muted.
I definitely think that it's a myth, but also in the recent years with technology advancement, with people having more access to the internet and the world having better access to more information, it allowed more people to start businesses. So traditionally, like 50 years ago, you would have to come from a rich family, or you need to save up all your life to get a capital to open a shop or to buy things. Whereas now the internet's changed a lot of that. Anyone in any corner of the world with a laptop and good access to internet can start a business or can start earning money straight away. So to answer that question, I think the landscape has changed. It just opened up a whole new way for people to start businesses. Where do I think that's going? So there's two ways to look at it. So fortunately, I'm privileged because I lived in the UK and I worked there, so I have a much better way of much better opportunities as to save up money and then go out. If I have an idea, I can go out and sustain myself for the next 6 months and test this business out. If it fails, I can go back to working again, or the state would support me. Whereas if it's in a country like India, Sri Lanka, or any parts of Asia, or anywhere else in the world, given your circumstances where you've got your parents, your family to support, you're at university, your parents are paying for it, and you're trying to bring up this conversation to say that you're going to start a business. For them, it's quite a scary experience because they put all their life saving in getting you to university, and for them, it will feel like you're risking it, right? So the way to kind of navigate around that is probably to initially take up a job. There's no shame in working, and it's probably one of the best things to do to learn. Take up a job, save a bit of money, but start working on your different ideas while you're working. So in the evenings, find some time to do it. So once you know that you're testing out ideas and starting to pick up some traction, then you will automatically start saving some money towards it. So I think that's the way to do it now. Given the current circumstances for a lot of people in Asia who may not have a rich family or a lot of money to go out and start straight away.
Yeah, actually that's a brilliant idea, Rob, and it's something very common for all three of us. All three of us are very hardworking people, and we're always occupying our time with many different things, and it's very common for us to, like, for example, Elaine, right, in her story, like while she was a university student, she was already running her business because that was what she was passionate about from out of her own like hostel room, And even with me as well, I was actually juggling my first degree with my theatre company, running it concurrently, taking time off, and so I think one of the ways also is if you are thrown into very out of your comfort zone, when nobody's supporting you. In my story, like, nobody supported me at some point because I defied my parents. And I'm not asking you to go ahead and do that. Please be good children. Don't defy your parents. But that happened in my case, and I had to survive. So it's about survival. So that's the other thing about entrepreneurial as well. When you're in survival mode, you work smart and you work hard at achieving your dream. Elaine, anything to add?
Yeah, I think basically, yeah, there's a lot of, I think it's quite common for people to maybe start like a 9-to-5 job first, but you know in your heart that if you know in your heart while working the 9-to-5 that that's not what you really want, then take your time outside of work to think about what you actually want. Start working towards it, even if it's just a little bit every day, even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes every single day. It can make a lot of difference. I think taking one small step a day over a long time is much more powerful than maybe taking like a huge step every few years or something. So I think it's the small effort and the improvement that counts. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I also have one more question. Like to come up with some entrepreneurs also, we need some ideas. So I would love to hear from you all. How does ideas come? So, could you please share? I mean, how did you get the ideas? How to work on it. So something on that line. Was it through rigorous readings and meeting people and through conversation and all? So maybe you can share more on that also.
Anybody want to take that?
Actually, it's very, I'm not going to say it's easy, but if you really want to get an idea, just look at the problems around you. Entrepreneurs are problem solvers, right? And the world is full of problems and not yet discovered things. Every technology has a setback. Focus on that issue and come up with a creative, unique and idea that can also bring in money. So if you just look at the way, that's how the way society has evolved, right? I mean, that's how Robert even came up with his idea as well. He saw that there was a problem somewhere. And sometimes the problem may not be a very bad problem. Like in my case, it wasn't a problem. It was just that we knew we could make a lot more money if we came up with more ideas and more programs. So we just had to go away and think and say, okay, what other fresh stuff people are going to pay, So that's how ideas actually come. Just look at your community right now and look all around. Is there something that needs to change? Start with the problem. That's always very
So I actually fully agree with that. So the way that we teach kids as young as 13 years old is to get them to look around their school, look around their friends and their community. So what are some problems that you want to solve in your school? So we give them like post-it notes. They go and paste a lot of it on the wall and they start putting out all the problems that they have in school. It can be as simple as the queue for the food at lunchtime is too long, or I think someone wrote, I don't like I don't like this and I don't like that. Give me a bigger table, make recess longer and stuff like that. But that actually gives them a very solid problem. That the most important thing is that whichever problem you pick, you personally feel that you really want to solve that problem. So don't just choose a problem to make money. Like I said, it has to be something that is true to yourself. So know what you want to solve, know what kind of impact that you would ideally want to make on the world and start from there. Robert, anything from you?
I agree with both of you. And I think another approach that you can potentially take is looking at your skill set. So if you already identified that maybe I want to start something, but I don't have an idea, look within yourself and look at things that you enjoy. And if you have, and write down all the list of skills you feel like you have. So it could be as simple as I can write really well, I can sing, or I like designing stuff, or I like editing stuff. And then look at those and then look at ways how you monetize it. So those are fun things that you can do. But now how do I make money out of it? So can I write for someone and ask them to get paid? I think this works really well when you're quite young and you're at university or you're at school. So that's a good place to start, is looking at your skill set and whether there's opportunities for you to make money that way. Or you can look outside and solve problems too.
Actually, I wanted to show you guys an analogy, just 1 second. My mom said this to me when I was a kid, and I think that's how creativity started. She said, look at the stapler, you know the stapler? I don't have one on my desk right now.
Yes, yes.
But somebody saw that papers were all over the place and decided, okay, how do I get a way to compile papers in a way that is more orderly and fashion? So somebody said, okay, let me create something that can compile these papers together. And then that person invented the stapler. I found this on my desk. It's a name card holder. So some businessman perhaps was walking around with 1,000 name cards in his pocket saying, oh my goodness, this is so disorganized. I wonder if I can create something that can hold all of this. And with creating this, people needed to buy it because everybody felt the same problem. So I hope this analogy can give you a much clearer idea.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's very much helpful. So we have some questions at the chat box. So first, from Deepak, I would like to read it out. Thank you, Patrina, ma'am, Ellen, ma'am, and Sir Robert. My question is to Sir Robert. What should we do when we feel discouraged in life? I feel demotivated sometimes.
Okay, thank you, Deepak sir, for that question. So I think it's a demotivation. So I think, look, the best way to look at these things, motivation, demotivation, happiness, sad, or any other emotions we come across, just think of them as different stages that we go through in our daily life. Like every day we go through a bunch of different emotions. In our life, we go through a bunch of different phases. So there might be phases when you're depressed, there might be phases when you're happy, and so on. So it's always up and down, right? So you got to, as an individual, and it's so good, like starting out early, and it took me a long time to manage this, is to manage your emotions better. Like, how can I think, like when I'm sad, how do I feel about being sad? What can I do to not feel sad? So when it comes to motivation, for example, why do I feel demotivated? Is it because I don't enjoy what I'm doing? Is it because I'm demotivated by like my family or friends? You got to identify the source, and that maybe might take a bit more longer, but it's within you to identify the cause of the demotivation. And then you look for inspirations. So what is it that inspires me? What is it that motivates me? Am I motivated when I get out and do things, or am I motivated when I make things, or when I create something, or am I motivated when I solve a problem? For me, solving problems, like it's quite a motivational thing for me. Another thing is keeping busy. So like reading, writing, or working out, that motivates me a lot. So you need to figure out what motivates you and start doing those activities. The other thing to look at is reflect back on, reflect back on like where you are now and where you were maybe 5 years ago, and think how far you've come. And that always gives you that motivation to keep driving forward. So Deepak, I think all the best to you, but don't feel bad about demotivating. Find it within yourself to really motivate yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Robert. So we have another questions from Mito. So he said, I will read out. I met few entrepreneurs who told me that college and university are a waste of time for a person who wants to be an entrepreneur. So how much would you recommend on this?
I want to question though. I really want to. If you notice my journey, I went back to school. So I did my first degree. I was very, very comfortable with the business I was running. It made money. I was able to travel the world, do all the things I love. But then I took 1 year to, instead of making money, investing in something that was going to grow me personally. So I know there are many entrepreneurs who say this, and it's all over the world. Education is very important. So maybe college and university may not be for everyone, but invest in yourself. I think that's the greatest investment you can make. And by that, I mean learning every single day. I'm a big advocate for going to uni or just learning. University is not just a piece of paper. If you ever think it's a piece of paper, then yeah, maybe don't waste your time going just to achieve that. Go to university and through university, ask the right questions. Like, why am I here? What am I studying this? And how do I apply this in my life? You know, I think that's what the three of us did actually. Robert, myself, and Elaine as well. Actually, all of us in our team have also taken a pivot or change, you know. Like from Robert, it was from engineering to accounting in uni. Elaine also mentioned that you actually did a pivot, right, in university.
Yeah.
After the first year.
Mm.
Yeah, and I actually did 2 different degrees in a slightly different fields. They were still under a humanities subject, but slightly different, from liberal arts, which is half arts, half science, to philosophy and religion, and that's very different. But it's really about looking at university as an investment for yourself more than anything else. If again you think that university may not be the right place for you because you're not very motivated by the academic, go to a technical school or go to a trade school. But never ever underestimate education, because it is power, even in the world of entrepreneurship. In fact, I think what it taught me in university, right, was the discipline, you know, because in uni you learn all the discipline of writing papers, the structure and all. You need these things in your entrepreneurial journey. So yeah. You want to take the next question, Elaine? How much of motivation we need? How long till we get success after that?
Just a note. I think Robert has a call at 1, so he had to go first. But he says, "Thank you everyone for listening." So the next question from Bob, right? So how much motivation do we need, and how long till we get there? Honestly, my answer to this would be, I think it's very easy, especially in the social media kind of time, to feel like you are behind everybody else that you're seeing. But the important thing I think to remember is to understand that everybody is on a different timeline. So everybody will succeed and everybody will fail at a vastly different time. So just because your friend has managed to start her business and become a billionaire at like the age of 20 doesn't mean that you are behind just because you do it when you're 40 or 50. Like everyone's life journey is just so different and so exciting in so many different ways. I think, yeah, in terms of like, if I were to draw it back to Mito's question as well, the reason why I decided to change my major is because I knew in my heart that it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I think always be true to yourself. I know that there can be a lot of pressure from parents or family, but if you believe very strongly that in something that you want to do, then maybe do I can't mute. Oh, okay. Yeah. So honestly, your journey is your own to build. So think about, honestly, I would just sit down, because I like to write my thoughts on paper. So I'll just sit down with my notebook maybe at the start of the year. I write down for the year what are the things that I want to achieve. For example, this year I knew that I wanted to start a startup. I didn't know at the start of the year that I wanted to go into the mental health space, but by April when I met them, or actually 1 month before I met Patrina and Robert, I knew that I maybe wanted to try mental health because it was something that matters a lot to me. So I know in my head 1 month before I want to do mental health, and somehow the universe will align me to people that want to do mental health, you know? So write down, take a look at maybe what you want to do, what excites you. But at the same time, on what Robert mentioned just now about turning something that you into something that needs money, I think we also have to be careful with that sometimes. So in my case, I turned my design work and my calligraphy into a business. But I think we need to be, you need to really know, do you want your hobby, maybe something that you enjoy and something that you have fun out of, to become a business? Because sometimes that makes your hobby something that gives you stress. right? Sometimes you can hit like a mind block, a creative block, because you know that I have to do this for the client and I have to rush this out by this deadline. Sometimes it takes all the fun out of it. So you have to be sure that that's something that you want to do. So I'm someone that has a lot of different hobbies, and I've picked up a lot of skill sets over the years. Like I like to dance, I like to sing, I like to draw. Maybe design and drawing, I turned it into a business to try to see how it works out. But I try to keep my singing as a not-for-profit kind of thing. So I'm in an a cappella group in Singapore, but we are just semi-professional. So we all have our jobs, and we want to really make sure that we enjoy what we are doing and that we are able to do what we want to do. If we make money, all the better, but we are not going into it to become famous like Pentatonics, for example. So know what you want. Yeah.
That's very good advice, actually, Elaine. Like what Elaine mentioned, that's why it's so important for you to know your purpose. Because with that purpose in your heart, you are stepping out in faith, trusting that if this is meant for you, then you know the right people will come across, and if not, the door will shut in front of your face, and you will naturally just turn, right? So it's very important that part, because even like with like what Elaine was sharing, like in my own, when I look back, a lot of things were just a desire in my heart, and then one thing, like one step at a time, and then that's how it. I'm looking at this question Mito asked. I think Mito is very interested in entrepreneurship. I'm very excited. Very excited. Maybe for some of you, I don't know whether you're familiar with the term startup. Are you familiar with that term? If you're not, you can always find out more about it. Go and Google it, what is startup and all that. But Mito asked this question. Can you please suggest some startup ideas under small budget after graduation? Very, very good question. Very good question. I was just trying to think about that, actually. You know how Robert was telling you that in his time, before broadband and all that, people were downloading music, right? Illegally. They were downloading it, and he had this idea, why don't I just take that music, put it on CDs, because everybody had a CD player, right? And then just sell the CD for like a few dollars. And that was a way he actually. How much do you think the cost of production was for that kind of idea? Pretty low, right? I mean, you had the technical, and then the cost of production of that is pretty low. In today's world, right, like what Robert was mentioning earlier as well, technology saves us a lot of money. And I tell you, every one of you in this room is very good in technology. You know why? You could all join us on the Zoom call. Look at you. You know how to navigate your way around the computer, right? So you can go online, learn more about how you can build things using technology, because that's what we are passionate about as well. Our mental health startup is an online platform. And with being online, you can reach more people. If that doesn't work, then you can always maybe suggest a service. Suggest a service in your community where you can, make a small fee. You can hire people to do the job. And this is what business is all about. Business is not just about you earning money, but you creating opportunities for people to also earn and improve their lives. Remember, guys, not everyone in your village, in your community, has the privilege to go to university. It's a huge privilege, the fact that you can sit in the university and learn. And that's something that we also feel in our own communities, right? Like Robert was sharing, he's the first person in his family to go to university. In my small family, in the village that I come from, I'm also the first person to attend school because I'm the oldest and I happen to go. So it's a huge privilege. The knowledge that you learn in university is actually more than enough for you to just step out and do this. Now, the most important question is, do you have the courage? Do you have the faith? Do you have the right mindset, the right attitude, the right heart? That's the most important thing. The next question, when you all met for the first time, what you have decided to do in the first place? Yeah. Elaine.
sorry, I moved it. Okay, so actually, so Robert and Petrina met first. Was it like two weeks to a month before they met me at the competition? So from my point of view, this is how the story happened. I knew that I wanted to do something in the mental health space, and I knew I wanted to start a startup in the year 2020, right? So normally this hackathon startup weekend is organized in person, and it's very intensive, like 3 days in person. So you don't sleep, you just work like around the clock. So I think we were lucky and unlucky in the sense that this year it was a fully online hackathon. So actually till today, I haven't met Petrina and Robert in person.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But it's very hard. Yeah, it's so hard to start a company without meeting each other because you can only talk via video. You cannot see each other's body language. There's a lot of things that you have to figure out. But the good news is that in Singapore, we are able to meet in person next week. So I'll see them for the first time next week. So that's something exciting. But what happened is that, so basically when you sign up for the competition, on the Friday night that the competition starts, you're supposed to go into a messaging app called Discord. And in Discord, there is different channels for different topics. So you're supposed to go to the channel that is for team formation. You go in, you pitch a bit about yourself. Who am I? What I'm here to do? Maybe what kind of ideas I have. So I went in, I typed my profile inside. I was like, I want to make the world better through a startup and stuff like that. And I'm a designer. So I put it there. The very next person that day that commented after me in the chat was Robert. And Robert said, I have a team of 2. We are working in the mental health space. And I was like, wait, you're working in the mental health space? And furthermore, they were looking for a designer. So like in my head, I was like, yep, this is the one. So I went to message Robert immediately. And the very next day in the morning, we actually set up a call. And the rest of it is where we are at now, about 2 months down the road. So it's been an insane journey because right now, like me and Robert are like juggling 2 full-time jobs, and Petrina is like still working with and like, you know, studying a lot of stuff and stuff like that. Yeah, so we're all very, very busy now, but it's so worth it because we have actually found something that we resonate with and we want to do. Yeah, so I think the only explanation I have of it is that the universe knew what we wanted and brought us together, because Robert came all the way from London. And I don't think we would have met under other circumstances, I think. So it's quite amazing in that sense. Yeah.
Actually,
So,
Eileen,
so it's like, you know, like this lockdown period has kind of, it's a blessings in disguise for you guys.
yes, very much. Very much. Actually, Elaine came to the story like slightly later on. If I just backtrack a little bit more, Robert and I met on a coffee date.
Oh.
So yeah, that's how we met. And then we both went into the startup hackathon thing already with something kind of built, but we needed a designer to complete the idea. So you never know, guys, girls. Sometimes a coffee date might just be the best thing that has ever happened to you, right?
Yeah. Okay, so let's have the last question. So the last question is like from this Sunil. So he texted me privately. So his question is, what are the basic needs for entrepreneurs? To be an entrepreneur, I think he's asking what are the basic requirements and the need to be an entrepreneur.
Right. Honestly, there's no fixed answer to this. I think the mindset is the most important. Like we've mentioned so far, it doesn't matter what you study in school. It doesn't matter what your first salary was, honestly. All that matters is that you know that there's something that you want to achieve and you will do whatever it takes to get it done. So I really think it's all in the mind, which is why I think mental health is something close to our hearts as well. Because as a mental health startup, right, it's not going to work out if all the 3 founders collapse and have mental health issues because of the stress of the entrepreneurship journey. So yeah, like I've had this happen before. The minute I told my friends I'm in a mental health startup, and then if I tell them that, oh, actually this week was very stressful for me, then I'm like, isn't it ironic that you're in a mental health startup? Then I'm like, yes, it's okay for me to be stressed, but it's more about how do I deal with that stress well and how do I recover from it, because everyone's going to be stressed. It's just understanding yourself, finding your own ways that you cope. So for me, I didn't used to like running. I don't really like running, but I bought this. My boyfriend bought me this game called Ring Fit Adventure on Nintendo Switch, and it actually made exercise fun for me. So now exercise has become one of my coping mechanisms, which is something that I never expected before, because it used to be like art or music. So that's yeah, just find a fun way to de-stress and make sure that you prevent yourself from burning out. Learn to maybe recognize the signs. You know that maybe you're feeling down or you don't have much of an appetite. You know that you might be burning out. So take a break, talk to people around you, talk to your friends and family. If you're stressed, talk it out. I think communication is very important, and a lot of people have feedback to us that they don't need professional mental health help simply because their friends and family are supportive enough for them. So for those that maybe don't have the support of their friends and family, then talk to go find out more. Maybe it could be like a therapist can help you, but I think more importantly, always know that there's definitely people in the world that love you and care about you, even if they're not your family. It could be your friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Elaine actually said the essence of what it takes. I just want to add two more things that are quite close to my heart. The two things are discipline and being an active learner. So one thing I find lacking in most young people is the discipline to pursue what they are passionate about. It's very easy to find people say, I want to do this, I want to do that, and all that, but many people don't actually have the discipline to follow through with what their ideas are. So it's a very rare thing. And if you look at all those successful entrepreneurs, like you study their lives, you realize all of them are not just talkers, but they are doers, you know. They don't just say things, but they actually do it. And once they do it, then they can see for themselves. The second part is linked to the first part, because once you do it, you have to be an active learner. Guys, here's a huge secret, the biggest secret of today's talk, okay? You guys are lucky to hear that because you stayed all the way to the end, right, to hear this. Look at the way technology has disrupted the economy in the last few years. Now, I want you to examine that and examine all the companies that have managed to stay afloat and successful. Why? Because the leadership was very versatile in actively learning how to adapt, as you have to be like a chameleon when it comes to business. You know, you cannot be set in your ways and refusing to learn and all. And that takes a lot of hard work and again, more discipline as well. So many companies made a digital transformation because of the age as well. The age has changed. So on this, I would just like to encourage you and leave you with this note. Do look into technology and how technology can actually improve your community. And yeah, stay in touch with us. We'll be happy to share some resources with you and maybe even connect you with some of our networks. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Petrina. Thank you so much, Eileen. And yeah, I think Ankita was also asking, but I think Ankita's questions and is also answered because she asked the same question. So thank you so much for having us and for joining us, and for giving us your precious time, because I'm so sorry for taking more time than the schedule, because I think we took more than 30 minutes time from you, but so sorry for that. Yeah, Eileen, you want to make any final words?
I think you'll just end up repeating, but basically, there's no fixed formula to becoming an entrepreneur. And honestly, not everybody is suitable for the journey. I think there's no harm trying if there's but more importantly, if you feel very strongly about something that you want to do. So yeah, don't just go into it because it seems like a very nice life, because that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? So that's just like the 20% or 10% that you see at the top. There's so much buried at the bottom that you have to deal with. But if you actually keep on going at it and you're persistent and you keep on learning, like Patrina mentioned, I think that like you can achieve amazing things. And I'm really quite excited to see what you guys will come up with. Keep in touch with us, and we're always more than happy to help. Yeah.
Thank you, Petrina. Last final comment.
My final comment is, guys, I just hope to see in the next 5 to 10 years, one of you here sitting in this room really rise up and pursue your idea. I know that there are ideas stirring in your hearts. And I guess that's why we were really willing to give up our time to come and sit here and have that chat with you. So if you have an idea, but you just need a bit of guidance and help, have faith. I mean, we may not have the answers, but at the same time, trust that there are people out there who have the answers that can help you and guide you along the way. So have that faith. That's all I want to leave you with. And yeah, like what Elaine mentioned, entrepreneurship may not be for everyone, but if you feel in your heart it's for you, go with all your heart and pursue it. And we will be cheering for you on the sideline. Failure is really part and parcel of life. It doesn't just happen in entrepreneurship, it happens in life in general. So learn how to embrace failure and say, you know what, this is actually a lesson I'm learning. You know, it's not the end of me. This doesn't define me. What defines me is my value and my worth as a human being. And that's so much bigger than whether you succeed or you fail. So I just want to end with that. Be encouraged, guys.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you so much. I personally, I also have learned many things. So whenever we think about entrepreneurs, the first thing that comes into our mind is, you know, money. That's how the people perceive entrepreneurs, right? But I think it was a very good learning session, because we have to always remember that entrepreneurs is a problem solver, right? So yeah, that has to be our motivation. That has to be the, like, I think that's a very, this was a very inspiring session. And then, of course, we have learned, I believe that all my students, all the participants also have learned so many things. And I want to thank all the students, all the people who have joined us today. Thank you so much for your participation. And thank you so much, Nini Jabina also, she is my colleague. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much once again for being with us. Yeah, thank you, Petrina. Thank you, Aline. We'll keep in touch. Yeah, Petrina, you can later on, you can share me or your email address also. So if we want to connect with you, so maybe like I can share, yeah, to the students. Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you, Robert, also. But yeah, he had to leave early because he had another meeting. Yeah, but we want to say thank you to him also. Thank you so much once again. Yeah. Maybe we will meet again maybe we can plan to meet again. I don't know when. Yeah.
Yeah. So the goal is to have you, Pilang, next to Elaine and take a photo to see if you all really look alike.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.